in narrow answer choice is where the previous lectures start playing a role. If you remember when I was discussing preview and paragraph with you, I said that not knowing the difference between a paragraph and a passage in the sense of each one has its own main idea is one of the primary reasons why people say that answer choices are too close. So if you remember that, if you haven't watched that video, you should go immediately and watch that video, because please remember these are in series. But if you remember that, then you will immediately understand what I'm saying. So this is a passage, okay? This is a passage. We are asked the main idea of the passage. One answer choice will give us main idea of one of these paragraphs. So it will give a main idea of this paragraph. Remember that deals with the topic sentence, but that particular paragraph may or may not have a topic sentence. Mostly they will have, but sometimes they won't. A narrow answer choice will give me the main idea of a paragraph. Now, why do people get confused? This seems to be an obvious problem. Well, because it is true. This thing is true. And people confuse what is true with the main idea. Whereas, obviously, these are two different things. But you have to remember, since I'm explaining it and since you are following me and you are able to relate to whatever we are discussing, you will say, yeah, of course, this is a silly mistake. But it is happening only because we are discussing it right now. When you're taking a test under pressure and your whole focus is to perform well and so on, you tend to miss out on these things. You've already read the passage, you go to the questions. One question is, what is the central idea of the passage? You go to one answer choice that deals with the passage, and another answer choice you say, yeah, but this is also correct. And you then don't think as analytically as you're thinking right now, because you are in your comfort zone, you are pausing the videos or rewinding it or whatever, so there's no pressure on you. So don't take it lightly. This is a very, very common mistake. A main idea of a paragraph, people tend to have I know this because they then ask me, sir, why can't this be the answer? Then the obvious reply is because that is the central idea of the second paragraph, or that is the central idea of the fifth paragraph. Whereas the question is asking me, what is the central idea of the passage? So you have to be careful. This is a very, very common mistake. So two things about this, just like we did with this. What is a narrow answer choice? That gives me, that narrows me down, that takes me to a specific location in the passage rather than passage on the whole. So mostly that will take me to a paragraph. And why it isn't wrong? Because I'm not asked for the paragraph, I'm not asked the main idea of a paragraph, I'm asked the main idea of a passage. But be careful, sometimes in GMAT and even in CAT, you will be specifically asked for the main idea or even the structure of a paragraph. So for example, you might get the central idea of the second last paragraph of the passage is, or the central function that the second paragraph of the passage plays is. So that is very similar to primary purpose of the passage, but now we are being asked for the primary purpose of a paragraph. So you have to be very careful. Don't assume the moment you read main idea, central idea or primary purpose, don't assume it will be with respect to the passage. Read it fully and see if I am being asked for the passage or am I being asked for the paragraph. So, but then if it is the passage, then we know why this is wrong. Let's revise this. The first step in doing main idea questions in RC is to eliminate two types of answer choices. The first answer choice is known as the broad answer choice. And why is it? Why do we think it is correct? Because it is from that area. But why is it wrong? Again, because area is broad, we need to figure out the scope. That is why we have to eliminate. The second answer that we have to eliminate is which takes me to a specific location in the passage. In fact, you can look at it as a shortcut. Any answer choice that takes me to a point in the passage except for the first and last paras has to be eliminated because it is a narrow answer choice, because it deals with a part of the passage, not the passage on the whole. This is the first step of attempting these questions, eliminating narrow and a broad answer choice. The second step, by the way, more often than not, and this is the good news, more often than not the first step is the only step you'll have to take. Usually what happens is you read the passage, you go to the questions, one question is main idea. You read the answer choices, you're confused between two answer choices mostly. One of them is the right answer more often than not, and the other is one of these. once you know what these are and why you should eliminate them, I think you will immediately figure it out. But suppose the first step doesn't work, then there is a second step. Remember, second step exists if the first step doesn't work. And then you go to the first and the last paragraphs. I have to tell you something extremely important here. First and last paras will help us in main idea only if either this is the intro and or this is the conclusion or summary. What do I mean by and or? What I mean is one of them has to be the case. First, if both are the case, then you're very lucky. The first is the intro, the last is the conclusion or summary, in which case these paras will be of immense help. But at least the first should be intro or at least the last should be the conclusion or summary. If neither, if first is not the intro and last is not the conclusion or summary, then this step doesn't work. And then we have the third step, but only then. Now you might have a very obvious question. Why will someone not give me an intro or conclusion? Whenever someone writes, someone puts an intro, someone puts a conclusion or a summary. The answer to that is GMAT and CAT test makers do this to make the passages difficult. They do two things, okay? Either they will remove both of them or one of them at least. They just remove it and give you a self-sufficient part, and then of course you have to figure it out. So they do it only to make your life miserable. The second thing that they do is they combine them into one. So a lot of times you might come across in GMAT, even in CAT, only one long paragraph. And what they've done is they've joined the intro and conclusion, or at least one of them. So you just have to read properly and figure out if the language is that. So if the first step doesn't work, you go to the second step, which means what? Pay attention to the first and the last paragraph, if at least one of them is the case. If this doesn't work, then there is a third step. Please pay attention. These steps are known as first, second, third because they are first, second, third. You cannot interchange them. Don't do that. The third step will come into play only if both of them don't make sense. Remember that. And the third step is, if you remember, to figure out the main idea of a paragraph, small guy, to figure out the main idea of a paragraph, we did mode of keywords. But since now we are figuring out the main idea of the big guy, the passage, it will be mode of paragraphs. What does that mean? Figure out if there is a common theme in most paras. So suppose there are 10 paras in the passage. If 6 of them are on one line and 4 of the other, then go with the 6th one. But not as the first step. Don't start doing that the first thing. If you remember in preview, we did this passage on the board about global warming. That will get you the wrong answer if you go with frequency, because only the last para is hopeful, only the last para is optimistic, the rest of them were negative, you know. So, but if you go with this, then you will choose negative, whereas that is not the case because the conclusion was positive. So remember that this will only, you will take the help of this only if these two don't work. In this case, this should make sense. We will practice this live on the screen, so you don't have to worry about it. We will apply everything that we learn, but I hope you have understood this. If not, you can rewatch it and so on.